You don't need strict dieting to overcome diabetes. You've probably noticed that many diabetes patients follow one restrictive diet after another, avoiding this food or that, yet they still rely on medications, sometimes even increasing their doses, and remain at risk of typical diabetes complications. So why am I saying today that you don't need to diet strictly? What does Dr. Harrison mean by no need for strict dieting? Stay tuned for today's video to find out. If we understand that diabetes is caused by high levels of glucose in the blood, it's known as a modern metabolic disease that reduces quality of life. The complications of diabetes are what truly matter, and one of the most severe is damage to our blood vessels. High blood sugar causes glucose to bind to proteins, gradually clogging blood vessels, reducing nourishment, and potentially leading to tissue death. For men, diabetes can cause erectile dysfunction, affecting sexual health and potentially marriage. For others, it can lead to limb amputation, blindness, or cardiovascular complications like high blood pressure or high cholesterol, even increasing the risk of stroke. When you visit a doctor, you'll likely be prescribed medications, oral drugs, or insulin injections to control blood sugar. However, there's something doctors often don't emphasize enough. The root cause of diabetes is insulin resistance. The key is to prevent our bodies from becoming resistant to insulin. Today, Dr. Harrison shares a nutritional approach to control insulin and reverse insulin resistance without overly strict dieting or splitting meals into smaller portions. I've shared before that the advice to eat small, frequent meals is, in my view, terribly harmful. Why? Because splitting meals keeps insulin levels constantly elevated, never allowing them to drop, which prevents us from overcoming insulin resistance. I've discussed insulin and glucagon in depth in another video, which you can revisit in the comments section of this one. To summarize briefly, the underlying cause of diabetes is insulin resistance. This happens when over a long period, say 5, 10, or even 30 years consuming sugar, causes blood glucose to rise repeatedly. The pancreas releases insulin to shuttle glucose into cells, but this process, repeated too often, leads to cells becoming overexposed to insulin, resulting in insulin resistance. When cells resist, insulin glucose can't enter them and stays in the blood, causing high blood sugar levels, which we call diabetes. This leads to fat accumulation, visceral fat, hardened and clogged blood vessels, and a cascade of related health issues. The main topic today is that you don't need overly strict dieting to manage diabetes. First, we don't need to split meals into smaller portions, as this keeps insulin levels constantly high, never allowing them to decrease, a harmful approach for diabetes treatment. Second, we should avoid anything sweet. Any food that tastes sweet on the tongue, rice noodles, PHO rice cakes, should be avoided. Even worse are zero-calorie artificial sweeteners, which I believe are one of humanity's worst inventions. Scientists have been puzzled why some people using diet sugars still develop insulin resistance. They discovered that whether it's regular sugar like cane sugar or zero-calorie sweeteners, the mere taste of sweetness on the tongue triggers an immediate insulin spike. As I've said many times, the root of diabetes isn't just high blood sugar, it's elevated insulin and insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is the real issue, not just high blood sugar. Some might say, that makes sense, but can we survive without rice? Let's look back to our ancient ancestors, the primitive humans. Their primary food source was animals. They hunted deerfish, not rice or grains as we know them today. Ancient grains were different. Today, for taste and aesthetics, we refine rice, stripping away the bran fiber and B vitamins, leaving only white rice, which is essentially pure glucose. When we eat white rice noodles, pocho, or rice cakes, refined carbs, glucose floods the blood, quickly spiking insulin. For diabetics, advice to just eat rice in moderation is flawed. Even cutting from 2 bowls to 1 is still too much for many. Leading global experts on insulin resistance and diabetes recommend avoiding rice-refined carbs and sweets entirely during treatment. So, where do we get energy? Vegetables, which are also carbohydrates, contain small amounts of sugar, vitamins, and minerals. Think zucchini, bell peppers, cucumbers, or leafy greens. These provide enough energy for the body. But there's more. We can derive energy from fats. When we eat pork, beef, chicken, goosefish, or eggs, these foods provide protein essential for the body and fats. Fats are an excellent energy source, producing ketones or cetones. In medical terms, a stable and sustainable energy source that doesn't harm the body like sugar does. Unlike sugar fats, don't spike insulin. The ketogenic diet, which uses fats as the primary energy source, is highly effective, especially for diabetics. That's why I say we don't need overly strict dieting. The key principle is simple: avoid sugar and anything sweet. In practical terms, during meals, skip the rice and focus on the sides: meat, vegetables, peanuts, eggs. This approach has a great benefit. It keeps you fuller longer. Why, 1 gram of fat provides 9 calories, while 1 gram of sugar provides only 4. Clearly, fat-derived energy is more stable, safer, and healthier than sugar. Even better, we can reduce meal frequency, say, from 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, to 2, consuming 50–70% of our usual daily intake, completely cutting out refined carbs. This still allows delicious, high-quality meals without starvation or excessive restrictions. By eliminating refined carbs, the pancreas gets a break, no longer needing to produce insulin to shuttle glucose into cells. It still produces hormones to digest protein and fat, but insulin levels drop. Over time, as cells are exposed to less insulin, they become less resistant. Think of it as absence makes the heart grow fonder. In medical terms, this reduces insulin resistance, which is remarkable and effective. All these dietary strategies are available in my Live Healthy, Stay Young community with over 40,000 members. Many members have struggled with diabetes, some taking medication for nearly or over a decade. After adopting this diet, they no longer needed drugs and their blood sugar stabilized. The challenge isn't finding a specific menu. Those are freely available in the group. The real difficulty is changing your mindset. Many think, I'm American. How can you tell me not to eat rice or sugar? Without rice, my brain will fail or I'll have no energy. That's all about mindset and beliefs ingrained over years. Viewers of this video range from 20–30 years old to 40–50, or even 60–70. The hardest part is changing that mindset. It's the most critical and challenging step. I'm living proof. I live without relying on rice or carbs, just sides. Many in the group have cut out refined carbs entirely and reversed their diabetes. Check out their stories in the group. Today's topic is clear. You don't need harsh dieting to overcome diabetes. The hardest part isn't the method, it's changing your mindset. If you've applied this and reversed diabetes, please comment to support Dr. Harrison. If you haven't tried it, start now, and when you see results, return to this video and share your story to inspire others. Your comments can give hope to future viewers. One of the biggest misconceptions among diabetics is that diabetes requires lifelong medication. That's not true. Today we'll explore the root cause of diabetes and how to truly treat it, including whether diabetics can stop their medications. Diabetics often use drugs like metformin or insulin injections to lower high blood sugar. But the issue isn't just controlling blood sugar, it's addressing insulin resistance. Controlling blood sugar treats the symptom. Controlling insulin tackles the root. Medications lower blood sugar temporarily, but patients often need higher doses over time, becoming dependent on drugs, which makes lifelong medication seem logical in those cases. However, a huge misunderstanding is that high blood sugar is the disease. In reality, it's just a symptom. The root cause is insulin resistance when the body no longer responds well to insulin. Think of it like a viral infection, say COVID-19, where fever is a symptom but the virus is the cause. Similarly, high blood sugar is a symptom of insulin resistance. Drugs like metformin or insulin treat the symptom but don't address the root. This is the standard approach in hospitals, often driven by insurance requirements, and deviating from it risks penalties for doctors, even if they understand the root issue. In a hospital setting, addressing the root is challenging. Today we'll dive into the root cause and what I truly hope for, not that those entrenched in old treatment methods will change their views, but that healthy individuals can prevent diabetes. For those with diabetes, if you're willing to shift your mindset and embrace new knowledge, there's a real chance to reverse the condition. Let's revisit the basics. How does glucose enter the blood, and why does blood sugar rise? When we eat refined carbs or sweets, they contain various sugars, simple, complex, or disaccharides. The liver converts these into glucose, which we measure in blood tests for diabetes. Eating high sugar foods floods the blood with glucose, but the body prevents blood sugar from staying too high. The pancreas releases insulin to shuttle glucose into cells for energy. However, for those who habitually overeat rice, refined carbs, sweets, or processed foods, high glucose levels over years, 5, 10, 20, or even 40, force the pancreas to overwork producing excessive insulin. Think of insulin as a ticket for glucose to enter cells. Outside the cell is a gatekeeper that needs this ticket. Over time, constant exposure to insulin makes the gatekeeper resistant, a condition we call insulin resistance. Now, one insulin molecule might not suffice. One glucose molecule may need 10 insulin molecules, or even 10 may not be enough. That's the essence of insulin resistance. As I mentioned earlier, how do we reduce insulin resistance so the gatekeeper stops rejecting insulin? That's the key to success treating diabetes at its root. The logic is clear: sugar or sweetness triggers insulin spikes. The solution: stop consuming anything sweet tasting on the tongue. For Americans, that means no rice noodles pho or rice cakes, familiar staples. Saying this is easy, but doing it is incredibly hard because of our ingrained belief in eating rice. Many immediately resist asking, if I don't eat rice, what do I eat? Walk into a restaurant, is rice a main dish or just a side? There are countless other options: meat, fish, eggs, and more. Why focus only on rice? Many believe without rice, the body lacks energy, a complete misconception. 1 gram of sugar yields 4 calories, but 1 gram of fat yields 9. We can absolutely get energy from healthy fats, a far more stable and sustainable source than sugar. Using sugar for energy is like running a car on diesel. Using fat is like running it on electricity, safe and eco-friendly. Importantly, vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, bell peppers, or leafy greens contain small amounts of sugar, enough to fuel the body. Eating vegetables, meat, fish, and eggs is incredibly healthy for diabetics. By adopting a diet free of refined carbs and sweets, the pancreas recovers insulin quality improves and cells become more sensitive to insulin. That's when diabetes can be reversed and you become a healthy person free of the disease. Countless people worldwide, including many in my Live Healthy, Stay Young group, have reversed diabetes after 1-2 months of cutting refined carbs and sweets, stabilizing blood sugar without medication. The challenge isn't the menu, it's changing the belief that chronic diseases like diabetes or hypertension require lifelong medication. They don't. No one wants to live with these diseases or take drugs forever. There's a saying, to get a new result, you must try a new approach. Sticking to old methods won't work. Change your mindset. You can live without rice or refined carbs. I'm proof my meals rarely include rice, and I'm perfectly fine. After nearly a year without rice, I realized it's not essential. I urge those with diabetes to shift their mindset, eliminate rice and sweets, and only then can we hope to truly reverse diabetes. For healthy individuals looking to prevent diabetes, minimizing refined carbs and sweets is the best way to reduce risk.